Kings hit the court, watch the magic go down. In the Kings court, the vibe's electric. If you don't like that, we're here to correct it. With the best in the game, we're raising the bar. From the hardwood to the airways, we're the Kings shining star. Expect the unexpected, this is where it's at. From NBA insights to the latest chit-chat. Grab your popcorn, sit tight, we're ready to roll. In the heart of Sacktown, we're feeding your soul. In the Kings court, the vibe's electric. If you don't like that, we're here to correct it. With the best in the game, we're raising the bar. From the hardwood to the airways, we're the Kings shining star. With the NFL, Adams in the ring. Rhino's got the wisdom, hear the praises we sing. Court in session, it's a royal affair. With the fans all around, feel the passion in the air. In the Kings court, the vibe's electric. If you don't like that, we're here to correct it. With the best in the game, we're raising the bar. From the hardwood to the airways, we're the Kings shining star.
It is our favorite day of the week. Jerry Reynolds Tuesday, 4 o'clock. The legend, Mr. Jerry Reynolds, joins us to talk basketball. We'll talk offseason moves, the draft tomorrow, and we're going to redraft the 2022 draft. Now, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to wait to make the announcement on how we're going to do it because it's going to get way too hectic if everybody starts putting their drafts in while Jerry and I are talking about it. Now, you can do that, but if Jerry has already made a pick, then you're not going to be qualified for what I talk about here in a second. You're going to be rejected. You got it? You got it, champ? We good?
Hey, champ, you there?
You there? All right. How's everybody's Tuesday going? Man, I just got to start here. 2 quick thoughts, and then we'll roll through the news. First, the NBA, some teams, and it's fairly logical. Water is wet, sky is blue, but seems like teams that are near the Kings, maybe a tier above the Kings, are playing chess, and the Kings are playing checkers. Here's what I mean by that. You're seeing teams that are saying, you know what? We're going to go get what we want. We don't really care the cost. We don't care what the rest of the NBA is doing with the market. We laid out a plan. We followed our plan. We're at this spot. And that's when we said we wanted a guy like this. And I'll point out a couple examples to you. But that really shines out within the last week with some of these trades that we've seen. So we'll go over that. Also, man, just brutal. This probably should have been in the airing of grievances, but I've had 2 instances now this month where I'm standing there just minding my own business, and I see 2 of the worst rejections I've ever seen, like guys hitting on girls. Now, one of them, it was like a pick 6. You could see it coming from a mile away. My son and I were at In-N-Out Burger, and, fast paced, places moving. By the way, if you live in Elk Grove, go to the In-N-Out by Costco. It's way quicker. In-N-Out, probably the cheapest, best meal that you can get that's considered fast right now. Feed a family for like $25. It's not bad at all. So, but no In-N-Out for me because I'm not doing meat. I'm mostly veggie and a little bit of fish now. Not that you care about that. But anyways, we're at In-N-Out earlier this month, and this guy, he's by himself, and he's sitting at the table that is like as close as you can get to the counter where this girl's working and calling out the numbers, right? And so he makes his first approach up and asks for, I think it was a fork. Then he goes back and sits down. makes his second approach. It's like a golfer walking around the green, checking the lines, and he asks for some peppers. And she tells him, "Oh, well, there's peppers out there." And we're like, "Okay, now my attention's there." Now I'm like, "Okay, I get what this guy's doing." And so he's sitting there playing with his food, not eating, and he goes up. He lines up the putt. He gets to the counter, and he goes, "Excuse me, are you hurt?" And she's like, "What?" Like she saw it from a mile away. And he's like, "Yeah, are you hurt?" And she's like, "Why? Because I fell from heaven." Oh, you already know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then he has to walk back to the table. I have never seen somebody slam animal fries as quickly as that guy did. But then today, I was in another establishment. And like, there's this lady, she's shopping, minding her own business. And for whatever reason, a guy is shopping in the women's section, maybe for his daughter, maybe for his wife. And he pulls his shirt out and he's looking at it, and it had to do with a local school around here. And the lady goes, "Oh, my daughter goes to school there." And he goes, "Oh, really? That's where my so and so wants to go." Wasn't a daughter. And I hear this because I'm not too far away from it. And he goes, "How does she like it?" And she, brief answer, "Really great." And he goes, "Hi, my name's John. No thanks." She literally said, "No thanks." "No, thank you. Keep moving." Can you imagine? I mean, I respect guys that have a little bit of moxie when it comes to that, but I mean, those corny lines like, "Wait, what is that on your neck? Is that, oh, it says made in heaven." I've never seen somebody really try to use it. And that guy in the first story tried to use it. They don't work. I mean, I'll be honest, the way that I met my wife was taking a little bit of one of those risks, but it was more calculated. And I think a little bit cuter too, the way it happened. But, anyways, that's not why you're here. You're here for basketball. What's going on? Hope you're having a great day. Again, Jerry Reynolds joins us at 4 o'clock. Maybe it's a question I should ask Jerry. How did Jerry meet Mrs. Reynolds? I wonder how that happened. Anyways, I want to start here. Something that we talked about yesterday, because the question came up: do you think Tyrese will be able to play next season? And from my perspective, it's a no. I don't think Tyrese is going to be able to play next season. But what I did say is, I wonder how he is going to handle the surgery. I ended the show saying he actually might be having surgery as we speak, because I was talking about Jason Tatum being the first one to have the Achilles surgery within 18 hours of the injury. Usually it's days later. And so he's kind of, everybody's looking at him as the case study. So Tyrese Haliburton and his team must have definitely hooked up with Jason Tatum and because Tyrese had his surgery yesterday.
He's knocked out of the game, but he's knocked out for next season. In fact, he had surgery yesterday, and our guy gave the surgery.
I know.
Martin O'Malley.
I know. But Klay Thompson got hurt in Game 6. I mean, like, it does happen. Grueling injuries. Durant got hurt Game 5.
Yes.
Yeah, so this stuff happens.
Yeah, but our Dr. Martin O'Malley from the Hospital of Special, say that 10 times fast, special surgery, he was the one that performed the surgery yesterday on Haliburton. So maybe we'll send the intern down to HSS to go see if she can interview Haliburton. There you go, Perry. Get on it. Get on it.
Yeah.
Knock on the door. Tell him you're his agent
Jimmy.
Or something. What's that?
Send Jimmy Joe Pesci.
Oh, that'd be great. But it does seem like he's the guy, and
he is.
It happened right away, like 2 days later. Bam.
Don't you know what? You should find this out from your Celtic people, or we could find it out maybe from Jeff Wexler, Tatum's agent. You wonder what kind of conversations took place pretty quickly between the Indiana Pacers, Dr. Martin O'Malley. You wonder if the Celtics were involved. You wonder if Tatum put in a call and
Kevin
said,
Durant.
dude, get this right away.
Yeah.
To his credit, right, he hung out for the game, obviously, but he gets on a plane either after the game, or he waited till yesterday morning. I would think probably late that night. Took a private jet, New York, gets the surgery yesterday.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
So the recovery starts. It is amazing to think that in this playoffs, we've had 3 bona fide all-stars.
I know.
It's crazy.
I know.
Tatum.
What's going on? You think Domas is headed to the Spurs? What's all the what is all the hype in the chat? I'm looking at everything that I'm at. Did Shams put something out? Help me out. Help me out. If that's real, that's going to be a big news. Hear a lot of stuff about that. Yeah, was he gone? We were going to talk Kings in a second, but it was Doug Christie's coaching staff and the reports that Devin Carter and Malik Monk are now available. We'll get there. So, okay, somebody plug me in, because I can't do 2 things at once. I can't look at my phone. I can't check my text messages, run a show, dial me in. Somebody put in the chat what's going on. Domas to the Raptors. Oh, okay. Just rumors. Thank you. I was going to say, come on. Like, that would have come through. I would have known that if that happened. All right. Well, look, I guess that's kind of my point. And by the way, Tyrese released a long statement. Getting back to that really quick. I'm not going to read it all. Go check it out. Very heartfelt. Included a Bible verse there as well. But getting to hear the Celtics, yes, traded Drew Holiday for Anthony Simons. The Celtics got Drew Holiday because the Haunted Horse, man, your team, because the Blazers released him. But the Blazers are a very good example of what I started the show with. A team that had a vision for their rebuild. They were patient with how they traded Dame Lillard. They waited for the right deal. Right? Yeah, thank you, Dirk. Well put. Well put. Because I trust this chat, and I'm not like throwing you guys under the bus. She didn't do anything wrong. I trust this chat immensely. In fact, there is times that you guys have put it in the chat before I see it. And so that's how Grant and I find out, because we're in the middle of a show. So, yeah, we can speculate, but just let it be known. Put rumor in there. Rumor, he might be learning how to speak French. Anyways, getting back to the Blazers, they executed their plan perfectly. They also looked at what they wanted in a big man, Donovan Clingan. They had their eyes on him. They circled him his last year in college. In fact, before that year even started. And so now to bring back Drew Holiday to that mix, to mentor the backcourt, to get Scoot Henderson going, I freaking love it. I love it. It's smart. It makes sense. Just like Orlando said, I don't care that we're giving up 4 picks. Desmond Bane is the perfect guy for our system, and we're ready to bring that guy in. They weren't last year, and they had a ton of money to work with. This year they were. They feel like the shooting's a problem. They're a defensive team. The East could be a little bit more open because of Tyrese's injury. Obviously, Boston and Tatum, it was their time to shoot their shot, go after their Aaron Gordon. So they did. And so it just kind of like makes me a little sad, because the Kings are just all over the map. Like, okay, we know we need this, we need that. And I get, because they're caught in the middle to a degree. And I am happy. I will admit, I am happy that we are seeing more activity. I'm hearing more activity, that they're focused on on the areas that they need to be. But you got to pull the trigger at some point. And notice the run on point guards. A run on point guards. That's an incredible trade to me, by the way. If Simons, when he's hot, he's good. But when he's not hot, he is bad. So Boston thinks that can help them in the shooting area. We will see about that. Also, CJ McCollum, another great example. Are the Wizards playing chess? The Wizards were sitting veterans last year to start rookies, but now they think their rookies need to have some better veterans around them, especially at the guard position. They bring in CJ McCollum. Kidding me? I would have died to have CJ McCollum here. Don't talk about his age. I would have died to have Drew Holiday here. Drew Holiday was the first name I said, and then it got some traction. The Kings ended up looking that way. Not that they're listening to me, but you could see that could make sense if they're looking to play a defensive brand of basketball and win with Zach LaVine. So you get him now, poor CJ, going to Washington. I know they are bottom dwellers, but they're taking the proper steps forward with the youth that they have. Jordan Poole was not going to help that team. Jordan Poole's just kind of off in his own world, doing his own thing. So great trade by them. Great trade by them. Sadiq Bey also involved in that one. As we move along, Kings coaching staff. Did I not get that updated? Did I not get Sean's post in there? There we go. Doug Christie officially announces the staff. There you go. Film team. That's actually really important, by the way. You don't know how hard those guys will put together, seriously, like 30-minute videos of one guy making the same play. Not like the same play in the same game across like the last 2 years when the Kings are doing scouts. So those are important positions as well. Congratulations to them. Sean is also reporting that Depeche Mistry is supposed to or likely going to be the summer league coach. That's the next step. We will have a summer league roster very shortly after the draft ends, probably within a week, I would say a week, because they're going to go through a little camp before they go to Vegas. They won't have the California Classic to rely on. Yes, reports are, and this is now the second time we're hearing Malik Monk's name, now Devin Carter. All I'm saying, and I guess that's why it goes back to the chess and the checkers thing. I don't know if the Kings have even figured out what identity they want to have. Because I don't know that you're trading, unless you're getting something way better, you're going to trade away Carter? I'm not like all in on Devin Carter, but I do know this. He can guard multiple positions. We haven't seen enough of a sample size with him. I have no issues with him on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, that's where his game's going to have to come along a little bit better. But Malik Monk, we're going to get rid of it. Okay, so now you're down to one playmaker on the roster. I guess you can call DeMar a playmaker too. But what are we doing? Is it going to be defense? Is it going to be offense? Maybe you're getting a better defensive player. I don't know. Scott Perry talked about defense, set expectations low. Doug Christie seems to be a defensive coach. The offense kind of was the problem. The defense was too, but that's more of a Domas scheme thing. You have to continue to pack the paint because you're undersized. So yeah, those two may be on the market. Look, I think everybody on the Kings will be eligible to be traded, short of maybe Keegan Murray. I think the Kings really think there's something there. They know there's something there defensively. Offensively, that's the big question mark. You've seen two sides of it. So and here's the question I'll pose to all of you. This is just a hypothetical. This is not going to happen. So don't run out there and say Rhino thinks that the Kings are going to do this. But let me ask you this. What would it take from Sac to get Cooper Flag, to get that number 1 pick? What would the Kings have to give up realistically that Dallas might want, that would work for Dallas? It's not going to happen. But like, what would that path look like? Because I think it would be both of these guys and DeMar DeRozan and much more. But Cooper Flag, he can play the point guard position. In fact, people around Jason Kidd are saying that he is looking to play Cooper Flag at the 1 while Kyrie Irving is out. So what would that take? Like Willie Cauley-Stein? Yeah, let's call Willie up. Hey, Willie, can we sign you to a 10-day? We're going to trade you on a 10-day, even though you can't do that. I just wonder what that would be. So, and what do you want back from Toronto if you're going to send Domas there? What are you getting back? RJ Barrett? Quigley? I just don't think that really does much. Domas, Keegan, and Ellis. Yeah. I don't know. I just don't think it does much. We'll ask Jerry about it. We will hit Jerry up. In fact, Jerry will be hitting us up at 4 o'clock. He'll be on live with us. All right, so let's talk about this really quick before we get to all of your comments. We have been talking about redrafting the 2022 NBA draft, knowing what we know now about the players. It's an interesting draft. Here is what I am proposing to you. Jerry's going to be ready to go up to probably 7 players. I'm ready to go up to 7 players. Here's the challenge to you, and I want to see how you all would do it. So you got to get your 7 in before Jerry comes on. Because if any of you, and if you want to put them in when Jerry's on, you just won't be eligible. But if any of you pick the exact same 7 in order as Jerry picks, I will send you a Kings swag bag right here from the Kings court. Got some good King stuff in that bag for you. So think about your 7, look at the draft from 2022, and if you end up picking the 7 in a row exactly as Jerry picks them, I will send you a nice Kings bag. Trust me, it'll be nice. It's spring cleaning around the Rhino and Sacktown household. So we'll get you all set up. So, all right, let's get to the chat. Let's see what everybody's doing today. How many of these do you think we're going to get?
Whew,
That's a good question.
that's a great question.
Think we'll get a couple of those.
Are you not entertained?
Here on a Tuesday, Jeremy Leak. Jeremy Leak. Is that a real name, Jeremy? I mean, no, not trying to make fun of you here. Is your last name Leak? By the way, shout out to my man Brian Weber, hosting the Jim Rome show the last couple days. Happy for him. That's awesome. Good to see him in that chair. Nice, Tristan says. DeMar, Monk, and future first-round picks is what it would take. Yeah, well, okay. And this is where I think it's kind of interesting because Dallas's window is only extended because of Cooper Flag. If you think about it, if you don't have Cooper Flag, you are win now. So could you maybe have better players to win now with Irving and Davis? I mean, I'm sure there's a zillion better offers on the table than what the Kings could offer, but that would be a game changer. Cooper Flag would solve a lot of problems in Sacramento. He would definitely help this problem.
Well, the biggest thing is we need a point guard, that's for sure.
RJ Barrett, number 9 pick, and Chris Boucher. No, thank you. It's an awful deal. I just... what does it do for you? Now you got Valanciunas as your starting 5. I don't know what is available around 9. I mean, if the Kings are going to do something, my guess would be, and I said this yesterday, it's going to be when the draft's happening. It's going to be while a team's on the clock. It's going to be because a player that they really like is available and they think that that team's willing to move off of it. So if that does happen, we will be on live right when it happens. But Grant and I are planning to come on at the end of the first round. Not sure why they're going over 2 days trying to do the NFL stuff. But yeah. All right. Sabonis and 5 firsts. Interesting. Not going to happen. I prefaced it by saying that. I'm just curious what you think it would take. Because Toronto is hard capped and 11 million under or over the apron. They have to be more. Yeah, there'd have to be more, no doubt. And Domas is not eligible for an extension, so every dollar is going towards the cap of Domas's contract. The Domas rumors are centered around small forward RJ Barrett in the 9th pick. That's not enough. It's not. Yes, besides you're right, Dirk, that it doesn't work. It's not enough. Like you have to throw what the Kings got for De'Aaron Fox out the window. That's an outlier. Kings got robbed. Vivek Ranadive put De'Aaron Fox on a silver platter and force-fed him to the San Antonio Spurs. How many point guards are available out there to replace our starter and backup? It's a good question, Paul. I think I don't envision Van Vliet coming back to Houston because of the money, but again, his age, what's Houston going to do with that? They pushed back the option with him. I'm looking at some of the different. The market's okay. It's okay. It's not great. I was thinking like Chris Paul was going to probably end up somewhere for a year, maybe Dallas, honestly, to kind of just throw in the mess there and really kind of mentor that team up. We're coming in Depeche mode. Yes, indeed. Steven Seagal was just traded for Jean-Claude Van Damme. Nice. Good job, Justin. Now, I know that's legit. Justin, well done, my man. I can
acknowledge me. Acknowledge me.
Good job, Justin. Yeah, okay, Chuck Norris has to be first row, right? No doubt. Chuck Norris. What's the best Chuck Norris zinger? Give me a good Chuck Norris zinger. Ryan D, I hear you say supposedly Monk and Carter are rumored to be available. Yes, you did hear me say that. So directly from, I'll read it for you right now. Kings gauging trade market for Malik Monk, Devin Carter. The Kings have expressed a desire to acquire a first-round pick in the 2025 NBA draft. League sources told Hoop Hypes. Amid those conversations, Sacramento has gauged the trade market on guards Malik Monk and Devin Carter, sources said. Okay. It's kind of difficult to figure out who the new sources are. The agents don't change, but the people in the Kings front office are a little bit different. The players are different, not the Kings players, but the players in the front office. For those that are listening on the audio replay on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, thank you, by the way, for listening late. We appreciate it. So yeah, I've laid out my case of what I think the best case scenario is for the Kings rolling into this season, and it includes both of those guys. Now, again, if you can get somebody that's plug and play, I mean, I don't know that the Kings and most of the guys that they've worked out have not been projected lottery picks. Why would a lottery pick come work out in Sacramento? They've got the 42nd pick. A lot of kind of mystery and smoke around Ace Bailey. He hasn't talked to any teams. He's not taken workouts, so not sure what that's about. But I don't even know who the Kings would want to target, we can put up some candidates really quick if you would like, as we go to, oh no, that went away. This, this stuff always happens. If there's a player that you want to look at, in fact, here's the top 100 prospects per The Athletic and their draft guide. By the way, an incredible read. Ace Bailey, wing, 6'8". I don't know how much Ace can play a guard position. He's a wing. He's a forward. I mean, that solves your forward problem, but that means now you've got in gaping hole at point guard. I'm looking at a guy like Ty Jerome. I would love to see the Kings get Ty Jerome from Cleveland. I think he would be a good fit here. I think Dennis sent it to me that Chicago turned down a Kobe White deal, reportedly, that included a couple of first-round picks. I would love Kobe White in Sacramento. I think you could make a case to get him in Sacramento. But, yeah. All right, so we are through the Domas stuff. What's the rejection soundbite? Womp, womp, womp. That's a good question. What should we make the rejection soundbite? I think it probably is. It's the classic Price is Right. Or you got to go, how about this? The most classic cry of all time. I think that's on the list of nominees. You could go with a Homer Simpson doe. That would work. What about this?
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
But there wasn't a chance in either of those situations. I mean, just flat shut down. One of them saw it coming. How about Darko? Does Darko work?
It's a complete crap.
By the way, while we're on a tangent, if you're just joining us, Jerry Reynolds joins us in about 25 minutes. Looking forward to that. Jerry and I are going to spend a few minutes redrafting the 2022 draft. If any of you can get your top 7 in before Jerry shows up and your top 7 ends up being exactly the same as Jerry's, you're going to be getting a big King swag bag from me that will include some Sacramento and some Stockton gear. So get those into the chat if you want to be eligible for that. I got to ask this question, by the way, and I think it's probably this by default. It's got to be that so far, unless we pick something else. Has anybody heard Will Smith's new song? I'm just curious. If you've heard it, let me know. It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. It sounds like a 55-year-old dude on the treadmill, out of breath. I mean, maybe in the middle of coitus, singing about babes and girls. Like, I'm serious. I can't play it here, but I'm thinking it's a joke. Go find that song. Will Smith he wasn't bad at music back in the day. He was okay. I mean, it was never great. Things were catchy. Can think of a few of those songs. Yeah, we're taking calls right here. If you want to call in, Dirk. If you're talking about calls with Jerry, Bree, if you want to call in with I don't want to get into a back and forth over the sevens with Jerry, because there's a lot of stuff that I want to hit with him today between the Kings, the finals, and the draft coming up here on Wednesday, tomorrow. Right? Like, I was shocked when I heard it. It was insane. Tuned out that guy since the slap. Family is out in left field. It's a great point. Young professor heard it. You like almost can't unhear it. Like maybe it's like 6 seconds of that sound when you get rejected. Maybe we can get that in there. Summertime will always be my favorite Will Smith song. Yeah, it was a good song. That was a good song. Everybody Goes to Miami, Men in Black. Yeah, there were some good hoop songs back in the day. What was it was a remake. He Got Game. I loved watching He Got Game back in the day, but the song from that came out of that, where they remixed the old version, that was sick. Dirk, what's up, man?
Yo, the biggest Kings rumor I wanted to chat about was what was supposedly going to happen as KD goes off the board, right? So we haven't heard anything about a DeRozan trade to Miami or anywhere else. Do you think there's maybe a multiple interested parties and there's a bidding war, or is someone getting cold feet? And that's why we don't have a deal.
No, I think it's the latter. I think it's you've got multiple teams that are interested in DeRozan, especially with the way some team seasons ended. That could even include Indiana. They're going to need another scorer. With Tyrese out next season, it's a Band-Aid over it, and then you have him for another year. But I think Miami is definitely still in that conversation. I've not heard the teams, but I have heard teams.
Yeah, that's interesting on Indiana's front. I'd be curious to hear what Jerry Reynolds thinks about that at 4, how feasible that is for Indiana, because, I mean, they're totally got to rethink at least next year. And some of the signings, like I think Miles Turner's probably not getting re-signed there. I could be wrong, but you can't just commit a year and the value contracts they have and a lot of their young guys to a whole year where Tyrese will not play the entire year. So I can imagine they might need a 1-year rental of somebody to get there. The funniest thing would be if they traded for Fox.
See, I just that to me, and I know a lot of you are like let go of it. It's not so much a let go of it thing. I am genuinely interested, like what's going to happen with De'Aaron Fox. I don't think they're going to commit a ton of money his way. They're in the market for a Giannis, and Giannis might stay another year. They'll be patient. I could see Fox even getting, Jerry said it last week, traded by San Antonio, and Fox doesn't want his money. This is his contract year. He does not have a contract after this year.
Yeah, I could see it feasible he gets traded too. I mean, that would be, I don't want to say ironic, comical, karma. It'd be something though, just to see that loyalty, because the Kings did make a lot of sacrifices for him or alternative picks, thinking he was going to be the guy. And it's not, he did commit a lot of time for him. I wish him the best, but I mean, I still think De'Aaron Fox's best years might already be behind him personally. Just because the 3-point shot is too inconsistent year over year. So,
well, that's what's going to keep him in the league, right? Because Father Time is undefeated and he's going to get slower as he ages. Guys are going to get bigger, faster, stronger as they are. That's why we're seeing all these Achilles blown out. So yeah, if he can't shoot that 3 ball and his speed goes away, is it the passing? Is it the playmaking? I don't know what the benefits are.
I think he's just a little brittle. His body is skinny. Even when you put on a lot of muscle, it doesn't make you all that more durable. So it's just his body type. And, he talked about not being as explosive as he was in a podcast with San Antonio Spurs fans. So that he had to change up his game. So, yeah, I was just reading up on that rumor too to Toronto. if you're gonna trade Domas ever, I'd say better sooner rather than later. I can see Scott Perry wanting to put his imprint on the Kings roster moving forward, because I don't think, can you envision a scenario where a team is making a run and they need a center and that guy is Domantas Sabonis at his contract value?
Like where they're going to put everything around him? No.
The only possibility in my head, it's like a team with massive draft capital moving forward. You don't have rebounding whatsoever because you're not getting shot blocking or really good defense at all. So what team needs rebounding that's on the cusp?
Yeah, the way that I look at Domas, I think that you have to be extremely patient. If it's the right deal in the right time, like Haliburton for Domas, when Monty made that decision, then you go, because Domas is an incredible player. He's super durable. He always gives it everything, but at 50 million bucks, with kind of the style that he plays, at least offensively, he's either got to be somebody that fits in with a team that's already playing that style where he's going to complement it, or you're going to build around him. And so you might have teams that are saying, well, we like Domas, but with a little bit of a haircut. I just don't think he's plug and play for all 29 besides the Kings.
You said something that I think people overvalue as an attribute of a player always giving everything. When the games matter, everybody gives everything. That is quickly equalized in the playoffs and in critical game situations. So to me, that premise of guys always give everything, the best example of that was like Jason Thompson in my Kings history. That was like his one redeeming attribute, is he would out hustle guys. But once he left the Kings, it quickly became evident he was not an NBA caliber player. And he was out of the league within 2 years after the Warriors tried to make him a backup big. And then within a month, he was the fifth string, or he was the fifth big man. So to me, it's not a valuable attribute. It's commendable, but it's not what I need in an NBA player, just because when games matter, that equalizes. And then Domas is really underperforms his averages in every critical game or playoff game that's ever mattered his whole career, Indiana and here.
Yes and no. I mean, certainly you have to start with the player in those situations, but I don't think the team or the coaching staff did him any favors in the playoffs, at least with adjustments in schemes. I'm going to fight back on you about giving your all, because in this day and age, and especially with how kind of crazy the trades are getting, where teams are willing to take bigger and bigger and more frequent risks, if Domas is unhappy, it doesn't affect his play. You would have never known that he was unhappy this season by the way he plays the game. And that's not true of a lot of other guys, which includes De'Aaron Fox. That was a trademark of De'Aaron Fox. And I'm not trying to pick on him. There's a lot of players. If there's drama off the court, they're not happy. Jimmy Butler, and so at least in that sense, I guess there's a different line of professionality with Domas that I respect in this NBA.
I mean, he was not a fan of Mike Brown. So as far as his professionalism on the team, he's giving you he's coming out and play basketball. Like, we should expect that. Guys who have reputations of coming in, like Jimmy Butler, you guys were talking about Kevin Durant a few nights ago in regards to, him coming onto a team. There's some memes going around of him sort of destroying teams and then, hey, look who's available, right? You just don't target those guys in trade, but they're more the exceptions to how it goes. And honestly, like, there's a certain caliber of starting player like a Jimmy Butler where he might fit really well on some team with other stars, but that guy has a lot of trade capital, I would say, where he fits a lot of needs at a very in-demand position. Like, look at how he transformed the Warriors into an actual competitive team, fitting in being a star in his role now with them. But I just think Scott Perry wants to make his imprint. I think he's going to look to trade guys for first round picks either now or future, just so he can start constructing the roster in line with Doug Christie. I don't anticipate Malik Monk is getting traded unless you're picking up multiple point guards somehow. So
100%. I said the other day, and Dirk, thanks for the call. Appreciate it, brother. Good
Pick
stuff.
a side.
I said it the other day that you can't really start making a move if you're the Kings before that DeMar DeRozan shoe drops, unless in the background like the deal's in place, like Monty and the deal for Valanciunas, that was in place for you knew that was coming. They had already come to terms. It was just getting everything in the timing right because the Kings had to get the picks. Unless you're getting point guards, like Dirk said, at least in that instance, for Malik Monk, okay. But I still go back to, if you trade away Monk, if you trade away Carter, you are now digging a bigger hole into what has been just
the biggest thing is we need a point guard, that's for sure.
For the Kings. Interesting that Dirk thinks that Scott Perry's going to want to make his mark. Now, under normal circumstances, which we've talked about so many times, you hire a GM and then the GM is the one that hires the coach because they have a shared vision. They're on the same page. What's Sacramento do? They hire a GM while they still have a GM. And then that new GM is told Doug Christie is going to be your head coach. And so I really am going to be paying very close attention. And I think it's an excellent point that Dirk brings up. So many times during the Mike Brown tenure, Mike Brown era, whatever you want to call it, we talked about, you all talked about, he doesn't get to pick his ingredients. Monty's the one that's doing the shopping, and Mike's not getting his type of players. Mike's having to adjust. And by the way, that was a situation that was done the right way in terms of the hiring. So now with Scott and Doug, I had kind of joked a little bit as we were going through the process of Doug hiring his own staff. And by the way, Scott walks up. I'm not going to go over the timeline again, but it was really pathetic to have Scott go up there and introduce himself and have nobody to kick him in the leg under the table. Say, like, stop, shut up. Because there were times he should have pulled back. And so when Doug and Scott went up, you could see clearly, go back and watch that press conference. Doug is deferring to Scott. Now, maybe, and again, short time period, they had only been together for a week to really kind of get on the same page. But I just, that could be troublesome. If Scott Perry wants to make a move, to put his imprint on this team, I really hope it's in line with playing to the strengths of what you have right now on this roster. If Scott Perry tries to take this a whole different direction and give Doug a bunch of offensive players, I think it's going to be an issue. It will be an issue. And so going back to what I said a few minutes ago, when Doug was putting his staff together, it was like a back and forth. It was like a fantasy football draft, it felt like, where it's like, all right, Doug, I was told that you're the head coach from Alvin Gentry, who was told by V. So I'm going to get to choose the associate head coach, who ends up being Mike Woodson. Now, maybe that was a Doug pick. Based off of the names we were hearing from Doug, yes, Woodson's experienced. He's been there before. Doug needs an X's and O's guy next to him. But you look at Mike Woodson, and he has all of the same ties. Every last one. Back to the Detroit Pistons and the guys that are always in Vivek's ear, whether they are working for the Kings or not. It felt like a Scott Perry hire. So then we get Bobby Jackson, right? And then we get Mike Miller, whose only head coaching experience was back with the Knicks. Again, Knicks Pistons connections. And then we get LB coming back. Doug, right? Depeche. Doug gets a promotion. But do you see like how kind of optically, if you're reading between the lines, there is an argument to be made that these two might not be completely on the same page and have the same goals in mind. And you know, if this team struggles, if they don't do well out of the gate, you know what's going to happen. Scott Perry's going to be nudging Vivek, and he's going to say, you know what? Look, I would have hired Mike Woodson. He's sitting right there on the bench. Take over at any time. I gave you an insurance plan, Vivek. You know, Scott, if that's his guy, you know Scott Perry's going to want Mike Woodson moving into that seat. There was not a market. There was no high demand for Mike Woodson. There wasn't. Dude just came off of a run at Indiana that was mediocre. It was just really weird. Why go back to Woodson, whose only championship was with Detroit in 2004 as an assistant? Like, why is Doug hiring somebody that's got all the connections to Gentry, to Dumars, who's now in New Orleans? It just really kind of weird. So to Dirk's point, I hope if that's the case, and that will be your first, in my opinion, that will be your first sample, your Costco sample. How annoying is it if you send your kid up to try a sample that like the lady's not giving it to them until they see you as the parent? I get it now because of food allergies, but back in the day, because it's been going on as long as I can remember, it wasn't food allergies. They just want to make sure you had the money to buy it if you wanted it. So anyways, that will be your first sample to see if these two are in lockstep together. That will be it. And who will it be? I mean, honestly, if I will be very blunt and honest with you. I have not done a deep dive on this draft because the Kings hold the 42nd pick. I have been looking more into players that might or might not be drafted, because that's been a strength of the Kings, identifying undrafted talent, bringing them in, developing them. So we'll see. They might make a move tomorrow night. There's a lot of teams that have talked about getting off their picks at the top, but it better be that guy, and it better be a point guard, unless you've got something lined up for DeMar that's going to land you a point guard that you think can run this team. There's not going to be a lot of the Kings are going to have to probably overpay a little bit in the open market for a point guard to come to Sac. It's not because it's Sacramento, the city. It's literally because the mess that the organization's in. when your star player is not being included in anything, either of your star players. And I'm sorry if you don't agree that players like that should be included, but that's the norm these days. They are. Devin Booker was included in the coaching search for their next head coach. Part of the press release. It's just when these guys, those guys, Domas doesn't know where to go, doesn't know who's above him, the right person to talk to, and who's on whose side. It's almost like the Kings are operating like a restaurant. Like if you ever worked in a restaurant, you know exactly what I'm talking about. A restaurant is high school on steroids. And no offense to restaurant workers. There's good restaurant workers out there that are going to be like, you know what, Rhino, you're right. I don't get down with all that other stuff and drama with the servers and the bussers and that bartender that thinks he can get every woman that walks in the building. Seriously, it's like the Kings are running like that. You just don't know where to go. So I can tell you one place to definitely go, and you will not be disappointed. That is Bennett. 3 locations in the greater Sacramento area: Rockland, Roseville, Howe, and Fair Oaks. Fine seafood, prime cuts of steak. Also, just a wide varying menu that has a little something for everybody. Big portions at a very reasonable price, and specials running almost every day of the week. In fact, every day of the week, there is some type of special. Today, you got happy hour, 2 to 6 o'clock. Weekends, you got weekend brunch, all 4 locations from 11 to 2. You know why I know that? Because I'm at brunch all the time at Bennett's. And then prime rib also Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. Go to bennettsrestaurants.com. Check out their full menus. Check out all the different specials. About to make you hungry. My bad. I'm promising you, you will have an excellent time there. You can make reservations on the website. You can put in to-go orders there as well. And if you need Bennett's to come to you, hit up Brian, hit up Margot. They can work that out as well. We've played some of the videos where they have catered different parties, and boy, oh boy, would I do some damage in those houses. Just saying. But seriously, thank you to everybody that's gone out and supported them. Let us know when you go in, and let them know that you heard about them on the show. Big thanks to Bennett's for sponsoring today's episode of The King's Court. Jerry Reynolds coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Has anybody put their drafts picks in? All right, fine. Jerry and I will just do it. I know some of you were looking for this. Haunted Horse and Dirt going back and forth. All right, I like it. I see it. If you have questions for Jerry, and I know some of you are on brand with your questions. Tristan, always on brand with obscure sports, but now he's starting to get a little better. Peter's going to hit us with some player that we've never heard of and a name that we can't pronounce. If you have anything that is outside of basketball that you want to ask Jerry, especially about the NBA Finals, he has been very close to that situation. Yes, redfish, incredible. By the way, it's not red like Grant's hair. It's blackened. It's really, really good. They even grilled the lemon with that redfish. Jerry and I, if we go to lunch, that's where we're at. You can find us at the Roseville location. He's getting the chicken Caesar salad. I am getting, well, I would have been getting the steak Cobb salad. And don't argue with me, it's still a Cobb salad. This turns into an argument every time I say that. Let's cater in Rhino's studio. That would be sick. I bet you Brian would do that. Do we have to shave our heads again for that? We'll see. Okay, Tristan's got his drafts in. But anyways, I lost where I was at. Oh, Jerry, yeah. When we go to lunch, we're at Roseville all the time. But now that I'm not eating meat, dang it, stinks. Chicken and dumplings. No, they don't. But I bet you we could get Brian to put them on the menu. I'm sure we could do that. I guarantee we could do that. So it has already been a very active off season, and we've only been in the off season for 2 days. Trades going down, teams making moves, carrying out plans, getting guys and targeting them. Kings, they are certainly in that position where it is time to make a decision on what the direction is forward. Obviously, the NBA Finals just wrapped up. Awful stuff with Tyrese Haliburton. Here to talk about all of it with us is the one, the only Mr. Jerry Reynolds. Welcome to Jerry Reynolds Tuesday.
It's Jerry Reynolds Tuesday, let the good times roll. King's legend in the house, he's got the game on a scroll. With endless coaching wisdom and stories to share. When he talks shit, birds, and Kings basketball, you better be there. Jerry Reynolds Tuesday's the place to be. Basketball magic, it's a sight to see. Chicken and dumplings on his plate. With a side of laughter, it's a perfect fate.
Get you every time, huh?
It does. I was going to say, I was almost like, am I going to get my intro or not? You know, man, that's a highlight for me.
Of course you're going to get it, and it's going to keep evolving as the years go along. We'll keep adding to it and tweaking it. You look great, by the way. Been getting some sunshine?
Yeah, getting out there every day, and yeah, you know, just fighting a good fight. That's all you can do. Day to day, we're all day to day.
We're all day to day. Who are we supposed to report our injury reporting to?
You know, that's a great point. I don't think anybody cares if me or you are hurt. So
yeah. So good. Well, Jerry, we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna redraft maybe the top 7 picks of the 2022 NBA draft here in a little bit, but certainly let's start with the finals. Jerry, you had the Thunder in 7. They win in 7, but seems like many people are gonna remember the Tyrese Haliburton moment. What were you thinking when everything went down?
Well, I was thinking it would be very difficult for Indiana to win going forward. I mean, I knew, you know, that they wouldn't quit, and they had a lot of, like I say, I think overall talent. I think Indiana was deeper and more talented than Oklahoma City, which surprised me a little bit once we got into the series. But I thought the bench of Indiana was better than certainly Oklahoma City's. But, you know, losing a player like Halle, I mean, you know, it really just took away their spacing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, T.J. McConnell's terrific, and he can get downhill probably better than Haliburton, and he's probably a little bit better defender. But as far as running the offense and making sure they're spaced, and guys like Obi Toppin, it becomes almost ineffectual without Haliburton,
right?
Because you know, Halle can get him open shots, you know, in the perimeter, and really that's really not McConnell's strength. So I wouldn't say that Indiana would have won, but you know, if you're Indiana, you got to say our chances would have been a whole lot better, and they would have been.
Yeah, you know, they actually beat the Thunder at the Thunder's game in the first half. They hung in there, but that run came, Jerry. And I guess now with Tyrese looking to be out probably all of next season, maybe he can get back for the playoffs. What's the next move for Indiana? How do they try to keep this together?
Well, you know, that's I think they can keep it together, but how do you replace, you know, how does Boston replace Tatum? How does Indiana replace Haliburton? Well, you don't.
Yeah.
You know, you can go have a good team, but I think with those guys probably not available at full strength, you know, if in fact at all, in my mind, neither team is a contender now. I mean, so it's just, you know, injuries are part of the game, but it really is pretty sad stuff because it's happening more and more, and serious injuries. And then for young players, you know, like Tatum and Tyrese, Achilles, boy, you just don't know if they'll ever get back to being 100%, to be honest with you.
Mm.
You know, I mean, some guys get close, but then there's guys that, now older players almost never get back. I mean, Durant's a guy that's come back, and but I don't think he's as good as he was, before either. I don't think he ever came back quite to the level of one of the top 2 or 3 players in the world, which he was when he went down with that injury.
Well, he still is if he's wearing red, white, and blue, Jerry.
Well, yeah, that it helps a little bit, but we've got, and I mean, he's terrific, and I think that Tatum and Haliburton will both come back and be really good. Like I say, I just hope they can get back to as young as they are to 100%. But Achilles is a different kind of thing, especially for a guard. Guards depend on. I always remember, and I know it's a little different now, but Nate Archibald, when he went down with an Achilles years ago, and he was unguardable. And, he went on to play on a championship team with the Celtics, but he was never the same. He went from being great to really good.
Yeah. I hear you.
And that's Rudy Gay's another example of a guy, who was a very good player, and he wasn't an old player when he had his Achilles, and he came back and was a good player, but he wasn't the same player.
I agree with you. Here's my question. Is there anything that you've seen throughout watching the game? I heard a statistic from Frank Isola and Brian Scalabrine that from 2019, from 50 years back from 2019, there had only been 47 Achilles injuries, and we've had 18 in the NBA since then. Do you see anything with the way the game's evolved, the training, that might be causing the increase in these?
I've thought for some time, not just the Achilles, but I think there's been a lot more injuries, period. I think they're overtrained. I really think players, didn't have these kind of injuries in the past because they almost always would take 2 to 3 months, or at least a couple of months off, just completely off. And now it's basically some level of strength training or playing summer league, or, something going on pretty much except maybe a couple of weeks a year.
Yeah.
And I just think that, to me, it's like a lot of things. I think your body sometimes like a car. After 100,000 miles on your car, some things seem to breaking down. If not sooner.
Sure.
And I just think they're overtrained. And then the second thing, of course, the game is faster. I don't know if it's more physical, but it's physical enough. But the speed of the game it probably leads to it a little bit because it's faster than ever. And I think the other thing is too many guys wearing low-cut shoes.
Okay, I've heard that. Sometimes you see them with their ankles taped or ankle braces on with the low cuts. You still think it makes a difference to have the high top?
I do. I think there's a reason why football players wear high tops for the most part in the trenches and things. I think there's some advantage because it does cover the ankles better, and it certainly would ride higher up on the Achilles. Now, how much protection? I wouldn't say it's going to stop Achilles injuries or ankle injuries. But, the other thing, and this has been discussed, with trainers over the years and been interesting now as far as ankles and maybe Achilles, because you really tape the Achilles as well as the ankles when you tape, and that by taping it at an early age, the muscles really aren't as strong as they would if you didn't. In other words,
very interesting.
You're really you're protecting them, but you're not allowing them to really strengthen as much. I think anybody's ever had a minor injury and had to put their arm or in a cast or even just wrap it for a few weeks knows that it's not the same.
100%.
So, it's a catch-22 because it without the taping, you're more at risk. I always remember Bill Russell was telling me that he never taped his ankles and wore low cuts and never missed. He did have a couple sprained ankles, but it wasn't anything serious. Playing that was the Converse canvas shoes. So, it throws out a lot of things, but I think it's a combination of things. But if I had to say one thing, I think it's just overtraining guys to where they put so much pressure on their bodies and their muscles,
And the specialization, we've had the conversation before. You got guys that are specializing in one sport, kids specializing in one sport, playing year round. If it's AAU basketball into high school and then back into AAU. By the way, those old school Converses, that's not fair to call them shoes. Those were like wood planks, Jerry.
Well, yeah, sadly, I remember, but at that time they were the best. Like anything, the best of the time. So, but I think that too. When you got 14, 15-year-old kids specializing in one sport, then again, unique sets of muscles are probably being used even more than they would be if they were playing some baseball, running track. Not that the muscles of the body are all being used, but there's stress on different ones and different ways. So, yeah, I'm definitely a believer that you're good athletes ought to play a lot of sports, for as until they get to an age where they really know what's best for them and what they want to be focus on. Like say the Tim Duncans of the world that were swimmers through high school pretty much. So anyway, it's an interesting subject but it's sad. I mean, when you're seeing your stars, so many stars in the league, Damian Lillard and so many stars not available in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's the curse of the number 0. All 3 of them wear number 0, and they blew their Achilles.
Wow, I did not know that.
This postseason, terrible stuff. Okay, so the bar's set pretty low. Here it goes. Tristan is in first.
Okay.
All right. Who's the best player the Kings never drafted, but you take personal credit for discovering anyway?
Well, I didn't. I think the best player that we didn't draft that we should have, and it was clear that we should have, and I think it was very surprising we didn't, was Damian Lillard. He was there for us. He'd had a great workout, bright young man. Just in his workouts, like I say, it was just breathtaking shooting ability. But you can see very mature, classy, and we were all set to take him. And that was probably the one time I think we were all surprised that Jeff, that here again, Thomas was slipping, and that was his name, wasn't it? God, I'm having a brain fart here. The kid that we took at 5 instead of Lillard.
Thomas Robinson?
Thomas Robinson, yeah, gosh, that's easy. I'd like to forget him. But everybody kind of had him on the boards of all the mock drafts, 2nd or 3rd or something all along there. And there was concern that, certainly that Jason Thompson might not re-sign or might not even clearly be the guy, which was probably true as well. And so, I think on that basis, Jeff and Paul Westphal in particular, I think at that time just said, well, we might be safer just to go get the power forward and it looks like he's dropping and it'd be hard to pass him type thing.
Sure.
And sometimes when they're dropping, they should be passed. But then you always remember guys that were dropping and shouldn't have been passed, like Nowitzki and Paul Pierce.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes, well, like I say, anyway, that was a terrible mistake because that Lillard would have wanted to come, from Oakland, and would have really solidified that position, as we know, like he did in Portland for 10 years.
How big of a concern was it that he was from a smaller conference and school at Weber State?
Not much. I've always said I think gold is where you find it, and there's been so many great players come from smaller colleges, whether D1s or low D1s or even college division. But I mean, you go back through the years, whether it's a Scottie Pippen came out of nowhere, was the ultimate undrafted, or not undrafted, but unrecruited guy. Was 6'1", coming out of high school, and was a manager for Central Arkansas.
A manager.
As a manager.
Wow.
And then by the time he was a senior, he's 6'7", and everybody knew about him. Even though it was a Division II school, and of course Earl Monroe came out of a college division team, and Willis Reed, and so I can go on. But of course Larry Bird came out of Indiana State, mid major, and so and I think with Lillard, I think everybody by the time the draft knew who he was, and he'd played in enough postseason stuff, and the workouts he had, so he was going to go anywhere from 5 to 8. He was going to go there regardless, and of course he was clearly probably should have went a little higher.
Yep, absolutely. We have another trade. Reportedly, Boston, Atlanta, and Brooklyn. 3-team trade sends Porzingis and a second-round pick to the Hawks. Terrence Mann and Atlanta's number 22 pick to the Nets, and George's Jiang and a second. So, Jerry, we've had the Durant trade. We have had the Drew Holiday trade. We've had the Desmond Bain trade. Which of those kind of stick out to you, and what's the theme so far overall to you this offseason?
Well, so far, I mean, some of them are just, it's like with Boston, they're just getting rid of salary. With Drew Holiday and Porzingis, they're just trying to get under the apron and the cap a little bit. I mean, I think with Tatum out, they're probably not a contender, and I think that's probably it as much as anything. In their case, I mean, what they've done that hasn't improved their team, in my mind, at all.
Yeah.
So the salary dump, to speak. I was a little bit surprised by Porzingis, and I mean, Porzingis is one of those guys that, truthfully, he'd be perfect for the Kings if, in fact, he'd play more than 30 games a year. But you can't count on him to do that. So I see why probably they didn't go after him very hard, but he, the way he shoots the ball and can protect the basket, he would have been a perfect fit. But he was a perfect fit for Boston when he played, which wasn't very often. And but the other, I mean, obviously the Durant thing, that's an all-in move by Houston. And I think it makes sense with their team, and they've got enough depth to still make other moves. They've got extra forwards and everything. So I like it for Houston. I mean, they needed shooting. We saw that in the playoffs. They got some great athletes, but man, they got a lot of bricklayers.
Oh boy.
And so I think that gives them a chance, and probably from the standpoint of Phoenix, is a move they probably had to make. It doesn't make them worse. I don't know that it makes them any worse. They weren't very good. I think they can probably win 35 games the way they are.
Yeah.
And they got rid of a big salary that they probably needed to do. So, and really with Jalen Green, there is some star potential there. I don't know how in the world he and Booker will play together. That would be a concern. But so that now the McCallum. So
CJ, I didn't even mention that. CJ McCollum.
Yeah. Going to
Jordan
work
Poole.
For Jordan Poole. I can't say I like that. I mean, I know McCallum's older, and they're probably saying, well, we've got the best of him, and maybe they have. But I just think if I were the coach of New Orleans, I'd rather have CJ if I'm just thinking of next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been struck by Portland. They have done their rebuild so well, in my opinion. They've targeted the guys they wanted. They let Drew Holiday go when they got him from Milwaukee for the trade for Dame, but they were patient with that. They had wanted Klingon. They had circled him. And so now they bring Drew in. I think it's a great move to have around Scoot Henderson and the other guys in the locker room. And then even Orlando, to a degree, Jerry, it feels like teams have set their plans out and now they're executing. They don't care the cost of what it takes to get that guy. But Desmond Bane, he shoots the ball well. Orlando needs it, and he's a good physical defender, and they're a great defensive team.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think, they in Houston, is pretty clear what they're doing. They're saying, we're going for it.
Yeah.
And if I'm, especially if Suggs can come back and be healthy and stay healthy, when you look at that starting lineup with Suggs and Bane and Wagner and Banchero and then Wendell Carter Jr., I mean, they're good with a good bench.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're a threat certainly to be in the top four at worst. I think in the East, health is of course always the key. But I like what they did. I mean, they probably overpaid in some ways, but the difference with Bane and Durant was everybody knew that Durant wanted traded, Phoenix wanted to trade him, and so that's a different dynamic as opposed to basically Orlando went after Bane.
Exactly.
We're going to make you an offer you can't refuse,
right?
Type thing, because we think he'll be the perfect guy in our system, and I kind of think they're right.
I'm 100% with you, and it feels like some teams are playing chess and others are playing checkers. They're not sure which direction to go, so we
haven't opened a checker box even.
Perfect.
Another
even better. That's spot on. So we've got the draft tomorrow night. We're hearing a lot of names with the Kings being available now. The latest, possibly Malik Monk and Devin Carter. Some might say that Scott Perry might be looking to put his imprint on this team, but I guess my question to you, Jerry, is would that be beneficial for the Kings unless you are getting, for sure, a better point guard back or defensive players that are more geared towards a Doug Christie system?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly we've heard this in the past, but I mean, we're hearing it again that they want to build a team kind of based on tougher, more consistent defense. And I think we all, we're all on board with that. I mean, but until it's actually done, it's just words.
Yeah.
And I know with Coach Christie, I mean, I definitely think that given the right personnel, he could coach a much better defensive team. Now, having said that, I mean, obviously in my mind, Carter's a potentially very good defender. I think it's just such a short amount of time we've seen him, but what little we've seen him, I mean, he's got some dog in him. I mean, he gets after guys and very physical, not backing off for a young guy.
Mm-hmm.
I understand if you got to do whatever makes your team better, but I also know that sometimes with young guys, boy, don't give up too soon. Ask LA Clippers about how they feel about moving on from Gilgeous Alexander.
I don't think you're going to get a great answer from Steve Ballmer. He was so sick that he built his new building with more toilets than any other one in the NBA. So I guess that's kind of where I ask when I think about what you just said, because Devin Carter's in that group of guys that, as we look at the Kings, they can kind of guard multiple positions. We think they can be a little bit more flexible. Can the Kings truly make any moves before trading DeMar DeRozan? Would it be prudent to make any moves before trading him?
Well, I mean, I think it certainly seems that that's the move they want to make first, and see what pieces they get there. Then it's easier to decide the other moves. But if you've got something you're confident is a positive move for your team that heads you in the right direction, I still think you probably got to do it, because it's one of those things where deals happen and then sometimes they don't. I mean, It's the old deal. It's like, well, Team A, say the Detroit Pistons you've been talking to them and they're ready to make a deal. And you say, well, we got to wait. We got to see what happens over here. Well, they've been talking to other teams too.
Right.
And so they may say, okay, we'll go to the other deal. And so you don't want to get caught holding. I guess that'd be my best answer for that. But ideally, if DeRozan's a guy you feel like you need to move first, and I think that he is, if you can do that first and get the piece or pieces or whatever you think would make you better, then it makes it easier to look at the rest of the roster and say, okay, now we can maybe look at this situation.
Sure. I play this sound drop.
Well, the biggest thing is we need a point guard. That's for sure.
And the reason I asked that question is because if you were to trade away a Devin Carter or Malik Monk, that leaves you basically with one creator on the team. And the team's biggest problem is they don't have enough creators. They have too many finishers. But we'll see at the draft tomorrow night. A question that came up is, and this is a hypothetical, what do you think it would take the Kings to get Cooper Flag and get into that one spot?
There's nothing they can do.
Nothing.
No.
Nothing.
No.
Not happening.
No. There's not. No. And that, I mean, there's no. That's, really Dallas would not trade the pick for Cooper Flag for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, I might do that, but they've said that, and I get it, for a lot of reasons, the loss of Doncic and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But so if they wouldn't move that pick for Giannis, then please explain what the Kings could do.
Well, even if they threw you in the deal, you don't think they'd do that?
Do what now?
If they threw you in the deal, you don't think that would change things?
That might really do it. I mean, I'm sure I know Jason Kidd would be excited to that. Jay Kidd, but no, it's just some things you can't do. I mean, that's all. I mean, that's like saying, what would it take to trade for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Why not do that? Well, I can tell you what it takes. You ain't got it.
Yeah, unfortunately, they do not. With the draft, what are you expecting? Is there any prospects that you're really high on? Anybody that you're low on based off the people you've talked to?
Well, I'm high on the first two guys. I think I'm not sure. I haven't studied it at all like most people are, like I used to. But I mean, Flag and Harper, I think those are two guys that can't miss. It's just a matter of what level. I guess the guy I'm probably least high on is Ace Bailey, probably. And the reason being, and I think he can be good, but I didn't see what little I watched. I didn't see star. I saw a guy, looks like he's got an NBA body and he's lively. But the thing that always come back to me was you had two guys that are supposed to be top 5 picks on a college team that went less than 500. So if somebody can explain to me how you can have two guys that are top lottery picks that can't make a college team a winner, why would you expect great improvement in your NBA team?
It's a very good point. And what, from a front office standpoint, do you make of him not doing meetings with teams, not doing workouts?
I think he's taken some terrible advice, and I think it's one of those deals where he's got relatives involved and things of that nature, where they're convinced wherever he goes, he's going to be the first ballot Hall of Famer type thing. And I'm don't wish him anything bad. I hope it works out for him, but he wasn't guaranteed a second or third spot.
Right.
And he needs to be trying to improve his position. I mean, like I say, there's pretty much consensus that 1 and 2 are going, Flag and Harper. Now, after that, there's 4 or 5 guys that could go 3. And he was one of them, and now it doesn't look like he is.
Yeah, and reports the Kings possibly want to get into the first round. There's a lot of teams that are willing to move off their picks, and I think there's other teams that may want to get in there too. So a lot to pay attention to tomorrow night with the first round. Dirk says, Jerry, do you think extending the season 3 to 4 weeks to incorporate more rest is a good solution, or do you think it wouldn't have an impact?
Well, that is a good question. I mean, honestly, I think the season too long as it is. That's kind of the problem too. Now, I think the playoffs there's enough break in generally, for that, and that teams, you get a couple days rest between games during the finals, things like that. I almost think you'd be better off playing, with just one day off, more like the guys are used to. But when you start, when you're playing basically 100 games, time you get to the finals, the two finals teams, and you're going into late June. I'm old enough to remember when the NBA championship was over in late April.
Yeah.
And now they played 72 games, but see, I just think they need to shorten the playoff schedule. Period. Less games.
Really, less games or less time between games as the series go long?
Less games. I wish they'd go back to the way it was when I came to the league. First round was 3 games, best of 3. The team with the best record got 2 home games. You can't get fairer than that.
Yeah.
Now, would they be more upsets? Or yeah, I think there would. Which is, how bad is that? That's what's made March Madness in the college game attractive.
Sure.
And then best of 5 until the championship round. I mean, the championship round should be different, kind of like the Major League Baseball. They do it kind of right, where the World Series is unique.
Yeah. So would you go back with the finals to a 2-3-2 setup, or would you keep it as we are today?
I like it the way it is now. I mean, with charters and stuff, it's, back when they did it that way, teams were flying commercial. And so it's such a hassle. And so, no, I like the way they're doing it. I like to say, I just think, in my mind, I don't see anything wrong with a top seed getting knocked off by the lower seed.
I'm with you.
I mean, but with the best of 7, it's almost impossible, short of injuries, for that to happen. Those first rounds, there's not much drama.
And we've seen a lot of stars that have not played in a lot of playoff games. Giannis is one of them. So it's not a bad point. Danny, thank you so much for the big super chat. Ben Sherry is a player who plays a professional league, and his team is competing for the championship against Bayern Munich, my bad, Munich. I should know that. A level above the college league. What do you think? So probably not as a draft pick, but where does that fall into consideration with the NBA being the next jump for something like that?
Well, I think I'm not sure I quite get it, but if it's comparing the better European leagues to the college leagues,
yeah,
I would say, I've thought for several years that the top European leagues are much superior to the best college leagues. And they're getting better training. The young prospects are playing against men. And of course, now with what's going on, I mean, actually, the college game is almost going the same direction now, where it's becoming you're seeing 25-year-olds playing in college because they can stay in there and get so-called degrees and master's degrees and get paid to play.
Yes. So officially by the schools, Jerry. Officially.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. They're serious about their education, the student athlete. But I think that's still true. I like the. I mean, if you can get like I say, when you get a top guy, out of Europe now, the Wemby's or the Doncic, those guys are top guys.
Sure.
And for a while they were underdrafted. I think Vlade Divac was more than anybody the guy that changed that a little bit. He was a late first round guy, and I remember it as like, he should have been a top 5 pick. But and after that, then you started seeing some of them Euros going higher than they should have.
Indeed. Danny, thank you so much for the super chat. If we didn't get the meaning of the question right, shoot us another message and email. We'll readdress it next week. All right. So you and I have been talking offline. Everybody on the show knows that we wanted to get your take on the 2022 NBA draft if we redrafted it today. So what I'm going to do is behind us, I am going to put up the first round for everybody else to see. And I want to see what your 1 through 7 would be and see how close we are together.
Yeah, I'm having a tough time reading it. Let me see. I put the reading glasses on there. Oh, I still can't. I've got them here. And I would say, just looking at it, I mean, obviously, I would take Banchero first. I'd take Holmgren second. I would take Jalen Williams, who was 12th, third. And I mean, not saying, might even consider him first or second, but for sure third, moving from 12 to 3, because certainly Banchero and Holmgren are not mistakes by any stretch.
Right.
And then I would take Keegan Murray over Jabari Smith, even though that's a minor thing. And Ivy, I would still keep Ivy ahead of Mathurin and Sharp. I like where they are. Although I would say this, I might move Dyson Daniels even into the 5th spot ahead of Ivy and everybody else down a spot. I think Daniels is kind of a surprise. So those, and then a couple other guys I was just looking at, I would definitely have moved up is, let's see, who's I got here that I would
Nembhard.
Nembhard, certainly in the second round, he'd be middle of the first somewhere. But I'd say Kessler and Brown.
Yes.
Brown from Denver, I would have him in the lottery, and I probably would have Kessler in low lottery. Now they were 21st and 22nd. And as you said, Nembhard, certainly seems like the class of the second round. I haven't studied that as much. And then, I just looked at a couple of guys I'd call busts. I mean, Johnny Davis, the 10th pick, clearly is so far. Then, I mean, I'd give a lot of other guys. AJ Griffin, 16th pick, looks like a bust. Some others haven't done much, but I think it's too early to write them off. You got to give them a little more time.
Yeah, they're only going into year 4. Ty Washington, Jerry, is a name that you've not heard a lot of, but he has been blowing it up in the G League, and he is in the Phoenix system. I think he probably would be drafted later than he was. He was the 29th pick, but I think he is somebody to pay attention to as we move forward here in the next few years. I think he's going to be beneficial for that Phoenix team. Tari Eason was one I was going to ask you about. Do you think Tari Eason is just about right at 17?
Yeah, there. You could even make case a little better. I mean, he's a guy who has a lot of value. I mean, if I'd have to think, certainly with the depth that they have there at forwards. I mean, he could be a guy in case you need another piece. He's a guy that's very movable.
Yes.
And but I mean, certainly now with Durant coming in, right? That moves guys around a little bit there. And if I were the Kings, that'd be a guy I'd say, well, what can we do to get him? I mean, he or Jabari Smith are probably one of the two. They almost need. They're not going to move Amin Thompson.
No.
And they're not going to move Durant. So, they've got one of those two they could move easily.
Tari was part of the deal to Phoenix.
Oh, he was.
Yes.
Not real. I forgot
that.
that.
He was part of the. He's one of those guys that some people think there's a little bit of Kawhi Leonard in him, where you got to be patient and you got to develop him. Now, certainly Kawhi developed under Popovich and the Spurs, but I think that there's some promise there still for him. You hit the nail on the head though with Jalen Williams. He's up for me. I think you absolutely have to have Christian Braun in the lottery. That was a big one. And then Jalen Williams. I actually put Jalen Williams second over Chet Holmgren.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't fault that at all. I mean, and you could make a case that right now he might be number one. I'm not saying I would make that case, but I mean, if somebody wanted to, I mean, second best player on a world champion, it's pretty strong stuff.
Yep.
And a 40 spot in the finals. So one game. So yeah, he's in there. And yeah, I would say, and that would be the good, not that you'd get the answer, but I would almost like to ask Sam Presti, you know, if you have to lose Holmgren or Williams, which would it be? And I don't think it'd be as, you know, in other words, some fans, well, that's an easy choice. I don't think it's an easy choice. You know,
Agree.
I mean, Holmgren is so unique. He certainly isn't the talent that Williams is offensively and stuff, but you know, his body type maybe as he develops. I mean, but he's such a unique player. You've got to factor that in.
Yeah, I mean, take the body style out of it. It's a Keegan Murray problem at a much higher level because the defense is excellent and the offense is completely inconsistent. And so I think that getting him, that really helps them when it comes to Wemby and the development of the Spurs, because there's only a few guys right now in the league that I think could guard Wemby and have some success tomorrow, and he's definitely one of them.
Yeah, he's one of them, and like I say, I mean, he gets a little stronger, but you know, he has real skill, like you say. I mean, the shooting is just not there yet. Doesn't mean he's a bad shooter, but it doesn't, which is why you say, well, why can't he become a pretty good one in time? And he's missed so much time through injuries. That would be the
great point.
The other concern, really, and the body type does concern me there.
Great point. All right, rapid fire, and then I'm going to hit you with my best question.
All right.
Mr. Fletcher, Kings, is it a must to acquire a first-round pick this year, Jerry?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it'd be nice if you could get one and then also draft well. And, you know, I mean, but if you have to give up a first-round talent that you know is a first-round talent, let's say you give up Malik Monk for the 15th pick, well, is that guy ever going to be as good as Malik Monk? There's a chance, of course.
Sure.
And there's a better chance, probably no. You know, I mean, especially would he be better than Malik within a 2 or 3 year period? I'd say almost no chance of that.
Yeah, you know, one thing that, and this kind of snuck into the back of my mind that we got to remember is for 2 years in a row, Malik has not finished the season, Jerry.
Yeah, no, you know, he's been pretty durable his whole career, but it has been one of those things where kind of freak injuries and things. But you know, he plays hard, and you know, he takes risks, and yeah, it's a shame because I mean, when you need him is down the stretch of the season so much, and the last 2 years it just hadn't been there.
Yep. All right. Rock wants to know: do the Giants have enough to win a World Series?
Well, they got a better chance than they did have getting Devers. You know, I mean, I think, but you know, when you look at the rosters and you look down the road, and I know with the Dodgers, and I mean, you know, they got some pretty quality players of baseball down there.
Yeah,
and maybe the greatest individual player in the history of the game. So there's that, and that's a real edge.
You could just run the Dodgers out there as the all-star team for the national team this year. That would be pretty easy.
Yeah, I hate it when in baseball, you know, where obviously there's no cap, so whoever has got the most money can spend the most money. It doesn't always work, but it's sure an advantage.
Yes, no doubt. Okay, so 2 final questions to wrap up, and thank you again for your time. As always, I really appreciate it, especially please send Mrs. Reynolds my best. First question, as we sit here, or when we sit down Thursday to, in the old days, pick up a newspaper, but more realistically, look at our tablets and our phones, will the Kings have traded into the first round?
I think they will.
Okay.
I'm pretty optimistic. I mean, I think there's enough teams would like to get out of the first round, that don't see this draft as it's kind of a limited appeal draft. You've got some real stars, but it looks like potential stars, but you don't see a lot of them. And so I could see where a first round pick would be more valuable to the Kings than other teams, especially a lot of teams that have them. So now, can they get up into the top 10 or something? I'm not sure about that. I think their chances of getting a top 20 pick probably are pretty good.
Okay. And here is, I'm going for this. So I don't want this unless
That's a great question.
Unless it actually is. But will the Kings' first significant move tell us anything about whether or not Scott Perry and Doug Christie are on the same page?
I doubt it. I doubt it. I'd be surprised if the first move isn't one that you'd have to think they both agree with. Now we'll see. Now if it's all of a sudden it's a trade, let's say it's trading Domas for a late first and 2 seconds. I'd say Doug probably wouldn't be very happy about that.
Sure.
Because he's trying to win games now, and so that. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think I'd be surprised. I think they're going to try to be on the same page as they should, And
Absolutely.
I've always said I think a general manager shouldn't really trade for a player that the coach doesn't want, or trade away a player off the roster that the coach doesn't want to lose. Now, there can be exceptions to that, but in general, I think that's a pretty good rule to follow.
I think that is a very good rule to follow. Thank you. As always, you got any plans the rest of the week?
No, I'm just gonna chill. I'm good at chilling. I'm a chiller, and so that's about it. Just try to enjoy myself and kind of watch golf and whatever sport's on that I can find now that basketball's over with. And I guess be looking forward to a little summer league, although it's sometimes a little hard to get into that, but I will watch some of it. It's really a lot less fun with the Kings, not unless they get a first round pick and get somebody in there. It will be interesting. Haven't said that. I hope Devin Carter plays in it, and they try to give him 35 minutes a night. And so we can, get a little better idea of just what he can do when he's supposed to be the guy.
I completely agree with everything you said. I think it will be less fun, but I think it's going to be more important.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to have to see the growth from Devin, because he's going to have to be part of the rotation. If he's on the opening day roster, you're going to have to see the growth from IJ. And we're going to be looking at it differently, Jerry, than we would if it was a first-year player.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah, this is really important time for him. The summer league and the preseason, all this. I mean, he's got to hit it running, and where the coach and the front office can say, yes, he is part of the deal. We think he can be part of the future and all that, and and quite honestly, if he doesn't perform well, they guess, we may have to make some decisions, but I like I say, I like his toughness. I like his length. There's parts of his game he just didn't show enough, and we don't know enough about his playmaking. We don't know enough about, can he be a little bit of a playmaker?
Right.
And because if he could, that'd really help, if it's just where he could be a backup point and you could count on him in that role as a backup playmaker, then you'd feel pretty good about what you learned.
Yep, absolutely. I don't think it's fair to pigeonhole him because I don't think the Kings drafted him as a point guard. They saw him as kind of that in between, definitely a quote unquote shitbird. And when the Kings were in need of a point guard at their worst moment, it was point guard by committee. And because he played the position or closest to the position, so went down to Stockton. Doug said run a team. He came back and he did all right.
Yeah, I mean, there's good bloodlines there. His dad was a point guard, I mean, and I think Devin's got more potential because he's taller, longer, had a better college career. So, just don't want to, like I say, I think summer league very, very important for him and for the Kings. It's not just for him, Devin, but it's also important for the Kings.
No doubt about it. Jerry, take 3 days off this week, please.
Okay, buddy. Well,
please.
I just want you to know I did put a little time in on the draft, and I don't know. And like I saw one of the fans said, definitely William should have went second. Yeah, probably so. But I just, but second or third, I'll just go there. The guy who, all I know is that Oklahoma City drafted pretty well.
Yes, they did draft well. Hey, I felt really bad last week because I told you to only have 2 rum runners when you paddle out to what's the name of that place again? It's on the other side with the rum runners. Anyway, somebody will remind me of it. But I didn't tell you to wear a life jacket. Make sure you wear your life jacket.
If I get out there, I'll wear one because I'd be a goner. I really don't even get out in the lake much. I stay around in the marinas, where the waves don't get too high.
Okay.
And the boats don't go too fast to where they might run over me. Because one thing I've learned is most people don't give a shit to somebody on a kayak.
Yeah, I'm hoping you've retired the Speedo. I
never had one. No. I think the creator of all did not intend my body to have a Speedo on it.
Oh my gosh, buddy, have a great rest of the week.
See you guys.
Appreciate you. Jerry Reynolds, always the best. Always a good time with Jer. That was very, very fun. Well, what do you take from that? Jerry thinks the Kings will be back in the first round. Okay, I respect that. The fact that it's been reported the way that it's been reported, I've heard those whispers for a minute that they do want to get into the first round. In fact, when we went back to Monty still being the GM of this team, although the Kings were operating under the belief that they would have their pick go to the Hawks, they were not giving up on looking at options and situations to get back into the draft. It becomes a question really of what it takes and where it takes you in terms of positioning and needs. So really, if you're a Kings fan, what you should be looking at is which teams, where the picks are at. Like if you're looking at mock drafts, look at the mock drafts, look at the top 15, top 20 players, where they're projected to go, and look at what the team who has the pick, what their needs are. If there's a run on forwards, right? And you are someplace that's got a ton of forwards, kind of like Houston, then maybe that's not the right time, right place. Same thing, Oklahoma City. There's a run on guards. The best available players are guards. Maybe you can hop into that spot. But it'll be interesting. I don't think you're getting back into the first round with it would be a bigger deal with DeMar DeRozan. Because you've got to make the money work, the contract for the first round pick. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, there's a way to do it if you're Miami. Miami does want to be a little bit more established. They really like Khalil Ware. I'm just not sure off the top of my head where Miami is picking in this draft. So the fact that one team wants to trade down makes you wonder. A lot of teams have wanted to trade out or trade in. Jerry just being modest. He still surfs the big waves in Hawaii. I doubt he's surfing the waves in Tahoe. But I'm sure he's hit a couple of those waves in Maui. Jerry does not. Oh, well, he's not going to be hitting any more of those waves in Maui because he doesn't like to get on the airplanes. But I'm sure back in his day at some point. Jeff getting the right and good point guard can make the entire team better. Might have to package Monk and get a point guard that caliber. Look, again, if you're getting a point guard in return, I'm just saying, here's my worry. Here's my hesitancy. It's sending Malik Monk out with DeMar DeRozan or whatever you do. If a point guard, and I mean a point guard that will play for the Kings, probably start for the Kings, isn't included in that deal, now I'm starting to get a little bit worried. Because now you're going to rely on free agency, which means you could still probably make a move, but you don't know what everybody else around you is going to do. And when was there this much action the night before a draft? This is insane. And it's because of the CBA. So I don't want to be at a point where the Kings are basically getting Jordan McLaughlin caliber of a point guard and saying, you know what, we're going to ride it out with Devin Carter. And no respect or don't disrespect to Devin Carter whatsoever in his game. I like his defensive game. It's just the ball handling, running the offense. It's just not quite there yet. Needs some more time. So that would be my only thing that I worry about. But Monk would probably not take kindly to being traded. I would put that as well. Look, the reason that you would trade Malik Monk, is because another team values him. Like, you're not going to have, I would be very surprised. And Charlotte's a bad example because Malik had some really bad times there. But a non-contender ain't going to come shooting for Malik Monk. As Jerry talked about with Desmond Bane, they overpaid. They knew what they wanted. That was the exact perfect player for them. So if you have a team that's targeting Malik Monk and they think that's that piece that takes them to the next spot, and you're getting that kind of value in return, then sure, yes, you have to. The question is, as you look up and down the NBA, how many teams need that guy? I can think of a few. I think Orlando would still like that guy. I don't know what their money looks like. Obviously, we know Toronto likes him. There's a lot. But it's going to be a team. Boston would probably like Malik Monk a lot. There's going to be teams after tomorrow night when the first round is done and over with that reevaluate and they say, okay, we like our pick. That's who we wanted. We fell short in these areas. It's literally a win now NBA right now. Teams are not thinking about winning next year, the year after. Teams are only concerned with the season in front of them. It's not like it was before. It's because of the CBA. You can't stack stars. In fact, there's been some conversation about should teams be penalized when it comes to if you actually, like Oklahoma City, draft well and develop your talent, should you be penalized for that? Should there be some concession for that in the next CBA? Yeah, their money doesn't go against the luxury tax, but it still goes against the salary cap. So, anyways, all good questions. No free agents coming to SAC once they see Doug and Vivek. Well, okay. Yes. Okay. AP. Terrence freaking Davis came back to Sacramento. You know why? Because he had been out of the league since he was in Sacramento. So I guarantee you there's free agents that would come to Sacramento. It's really crazy that we're so down on this team right now, and I understand it's because of what's going on behind the scenes. It's how the sauce is being made. That's what's got us up in a tizzy. But how much worse can the bench be than last year? I mean that in all seriousness. You had 3 players, and I thought Doug did better than expected. Talking about Doug McBuckets, Dougie McBuckets. Thought he did better than expected. He helped the Kings in a couple of games. But y'all, you had 3 players on the bench that weren't in the NBA to start the season. And then a 4th in Isaac Jones. No disrespect, IJ. You're developing well. A 4th that got signed to a two-way guy that got signed to a full-time contract. How many other NBA teams started the season or at any time during the season outside of injuries like the Pelicans? That was insane. How many teams had that many players out of the NBA and on their team? Probably none. So could the season get worse? Yes, Markelle Fultz, he's one of them. Jay Crowder. So Fultz, no, he's not an option to me. Markelle Fultz didn't have a big issue with his defense, but when he got signed, I'm thinking he's coming in to kind of administrate. He was always looking to score. Always looking to score. No, there's other backups available. Chris Paul would be fine for this team for a year. Grant's going to tell you it's a Band-Aid, but guess what? A Band-Aid ain't even coming close to closing the gap between the Kings and some of the other teams in the West. So especially with the year-to-year, the way the NBA is, I would be fine with Chris Paul. Let Chris Paul – what was one of the Kings' biggest problems last year? Ball handling, basketball IQ. Guy's got a master's degree in both of those. I don't know. Maybe the Kings are planning to bring BJ Armstrong back. Can he still play point? Could they do that? Could you do that? I guess you could. There's no rules about age. It's not like junior pee-wee football where you have to weigh in, be an older, lighter. No. You could bring BJ Armstrong back. You think he can run some point? Can't be Mike Bibby. He's too jacked. Won't be able to shoot a ball effectively, or at least like he used to. No offense, Mike. Love you, brother. He was, by the way, with Jerry talking about the high tops. Mike was one of those guys. Would not. Only lows. Would not. And that was like back in the day where teams were kind of pushing guys to at least wear mids. Mike would only wear lows. So it's interesting that Jerry thinks that they need to bring back high tops. Mr. Fletcher, Kings were 36-29 when Monk plays. I'm keeping him, in my opinion. He's a winning player. Again, for me, I don't envision the Kings shopping Malik Monk unless it is a significantly better player and he's part of a bigger deal. I think it's a situation more in line with teams that may really like Malik Monk. And if that's the case and you can extract enough, why not? Did you hear what Jerry Reynolds said when I started the show saying teams are in the NBA right now are playing chess, some teams, and the Kings are playing checkers. Did you hear Jerry's follow-up to that? His follow-up to that is, or they haven't opened the checkers box. Damn.
The biggest thing is we need a point guard. That's for sure.
Hey, champ, you there?
That was baby powder. So who knows? We're so early in the off season, but expect it to still be chaotic as ever, the most chaotic that it's going to be. Yeah, he's got to be a backup. Here is the thing. The kids are playing Go Fish. Okay, we're going to end here. The best version of the Sacramento Kings, the best version of this quote-unquote beam team era of the Sacramento Kings was when you had a dual-headed monster at point guard, which was De'Aaron Fox. And even though he was more of a creating or more of a scoring point guard, he was doing a lot more creating, and you had Domantas Sabonis. And you didn't know each time up the court whether it was going to be De'Aaron getting to the paint and spraying or a DHO with Domantas, with the other guys, with Kevin Huerter, with Keegan. And they could interchange those sets just like that. And then you had the third change up, which was Malik Monk coming off the bench, which incorporates the pick and roll. And that was the best version of the Kings because you had the perfect situation for the way they were running that system. De'Aaron Fox was doing exactly what needed to be done, enough of it to be done to really make Domas's ability to pass the ball and distribute be effective. Where the Kings fell off is when De'Aaron quit doing that. And all of it went on to Sabonis. That's what it is. The Kings envisioned. This is, and I've been saying it for a minute. And I think I'm kind of answering my own question now. As I've talked to some more people, like, why did the Kings draft these combo guards where they were not point guards, they're not shooting guards, right? Why did they do that? Well, the thinking was because they weren't a good defensive team, those were going to be their shitbirds. They weren't really thinking of those guys on the offensive end. They were looking at the end of the other end of the court for the times when Malik's running the point guard. And when the De'Aaron needed a rest, they were thinking heavy minutes for De'Aaron Fox and heavy minutes for Sabonis, which we saw a lot of. But then De'Aaron just started hanging back and shooting the three-pointer. He chose longevity of his career over trying to open or kick open a window for the Kings to compete. As soon as he settled for jump shots, it put all the focus on Domantas Sabonis, and then it shifted the onus of playmaking onto guys who are not natural playmakers. They weren't drafted for that reason. And that's how we end up with this massive gap at point guard. That's why last season, the emphasis was control the controllables, like the offseason workouts, control the controllables. Free throws. We're down like 20%, not percentage in terms of what they shot them at. Like the quantity was down 20% because the Kings quit getting to the hole. Who does that start with? The fastest player I've ever seen with a basketball starts right there. So that's, I think that's why we've ended up where we are with the combo guards. So anyways, good show. Very grateful for Jerry Reynolds joining us today. Appreciate it, Paul. Let's see, Paul, I would have never let us down. You know what? Dennis, you are one of a kind, my man. Dennis went to one of the Stockton playoff games with me. And when I go to Stockton, we basically sit with the Kings on their bench. And I think Dennis forgot that he wasn't on the team. Like he's standing shoulder to shoulder with the guys, like a big basket gets made. Everybody behind Dennis, they can't see a damn thing. He's so locked in. Like Dennis almost ran after a referee on a call. It's like, holy crap, man. That is it's a fan right there. Maybe a fan that shouldn't always be that close to the court, but gosh darn it, Dennis made the most of it and had a great time, and I loved it. Freaking loved it. Good job, Dennis. So, all right, we're out. And Fox broke his finger. Yeah, you know what? It's a good point. You know what? Okay, I wonder, and this question hasn't been posed, but I would love the chance to ask De'Aaron this question, because De'Aaron, Dennis, my man, you forgot what side of the court we were sitting on. You remember that? I'm not trying to put you on blast, but you were arguing with the usher that somebody was in your seat. And I was coming back from talking with Gabe Harris, the Stockton Kings GM, and you're arguing with the usher, Dennis. And I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, our seats are here. I'm like, Dennis, we're on that side of the court, man. We're sitting by the Kings. You notice that's the away team right there, Dennis.
What are you doing? Take a left!
Dennis. Gosh, now you just ran me off my thought. No, if I did, Dennis shoving Vivek out of his way. Yeah. No, he was a fan. Trust me. Yeah. Oh, yeah. In fact, Kevin John. What's up, Kev? By the way, Kev, you the man. Got this little thing back and forth. You the man, Kevin. I saw you doing the NBA Finals post game on 10. Kevin and I, we were talking, and Dennis realized that it's Kevin. Dennis just hopped right. Dennis took over the conversation. In fact, Dennis was throwing take after take after take after take at Kevin. Like Kevin's head was like this because he was taking so many takes from Dennis. It was an awesome night. Dennis made the most of his night, and I am very, very happy for him. You know, Kevin's already a hyper guy if you know him. Like, Kevin's doing a lot. That night, Kevin didn't have a cameraman. So Kevin is setting up the tripod, starting the camera, running over and getting in front of the camera, doing a countdown, doing his take. So dude hustles, right? And he had Kevin really working like, it was rapid fire. But Dennis, dude, my man, it was like, like the last 2 minutes of PTI, or is it the last minute of PTI? It was like that. Dennis got a lot off of his chest, man. It's like a confessional. So Kevin and I joke about that sometimes. So, well, Dennis, to be fair, you tried to get the entire VIP area to do shots. I'm telling you, I'm not making fun of you, by the way. You had an awesome time. He did nothing wrong. He did what anybody would if you were in that situation. So anyways, good job, Dennis. Very good job. To end the show, the question that if I could, getting back to the conversation we were talking about with why the Kings point guard situation failed. De'Aaron was having the series of his life against Golden State, and then he broke that hand, finger, whatever you want to call it. And after that, his game changed a little bit. And so I wonder how much that made him think twice about going into the middle. And I'm sure there's part of De'Aaron that probably thought there needed to be some more muscle in that lineup to kind of help his side of it out. But yeah, I wonder how much that would have changed things. Anyways, can't change the past, but what we can do is look forward to the future. Tomorrow, Grant and I will be on after the first round of the draft. If the Kings, here's the thing, if the Kings make a move, we will come on immediately. I will be here and we'll get Grant on. I will still do the Kings Court tomorrow. So we will be here tomorrow at 3:00, nonetheless. Might be 3:30. We might push back just tiny bit tomorrow. I'll let you know, but plan on 3 p.m. So yeah, we've got you covered tomorrow for draft day. I appreciate all of you. Thanks for checking in. 465 at some point today. Really appreciate it. If you didn't catch the entire show, do me a favor. You can subscribe to the channel. We would greatly appreciate it. If you don't mind, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, a retweet, goes a long way. You guys have really done a great job of getting us into some really good algorithms. And don't forget, take us on the go. You can catch the King's Court with Rhino on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Podcasts, really, wherever you find your podcasts. Same thing for all of Grant's shows. You can get them at, if you don't like that, on all those same platforms. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you letting me into your homes, into your cars, into your ears, wherever it may be, to talk Kings basketball with you. Big thanks to Jerry Reynolds. Make it a great rest of your Tuesday. Go Kings, light the beam. Court's dismissed.
What are you doing? Take a left!
Hey, champ, you there?